what was the biggest surprise for you specifically during the presentation? I know a lot of people were surprised that Breath of the Wild was actually going to be a launch title. There was rumors it was going to be delayed in certain countries and everything like that. Mario being set in the real world was a huge surprise for a lot of people, but for you specifically, what was the biggest surprise?
I'd say my biggest surprise was the launch date, because I pegged it as being like third week in March, maybe a little later, and to see that it's basically coming out in February essentially, because it's March 3rd. That was a big surprise to me. I was not expecting that. I kind of had Zelda also pegged as a launch title. People were getting swayed back and forth with rumors, and I just eventually just said, you know what, it's a launch title. They need a big game like that, and that launch date just really caught me off guard. Not even the price, not even the region free, just that launch date just seemed really early to me.
All right, and moving on to you, Dreamcast guy, what were your biggest surprise?
I got to double down on the release date as well. The reason why that stunned the hell out of me is just because they were so silent. Like, nobody was saying anything for months. So straight up, I assumed that it would not come out until May. I know that seems ridiculous now because it's coming out so soon, but when they announced March 3rd, it seemed insane that it was like less than 60 days after they're doing their big presentation, it's going to be in our hands. That shows just how crazy stealthy they can be. No pun intended, stealth. But still, it's so crazy to me.
And with you, Stealth, you said that you had some knowledge going into the event. So for you, what was a huge surprise?
Well, everyone kind of assumed that Mario would be there, and Monolith had been teasing for months that they would have a game. So none of that really surprised me. The release date wasn't surprising. What I did find surprising was ARMS. And the fact that it was being developed by the Mario Kart 7 and 8 team. Only because, I don't know, I kind of assumed that they were going to be working on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But, yeah, I guess I should have expected a new IP because, I don't know, I guess all consoles have that during the launch event.
I do have to give them this, that ARMS game looks better the more I watch it.
Yeah.
I watched that whole Treehouse, it actually looks pretty cool.
So I assumed there would be a new IP, I just didn't think it would come from the Mario Kart 7 and 8 team.
I was watching a bunch of interviews and stuff over YouTube and reading some on different websites like Eurogamer and IGN. And one thing that keeps coming back is how ARMS specifically and the snippets, I can't really think of the name of it.
Oh, Snipper Clips?
Snipper Clips. Those are like the two sleeper hit titles that everyone at first glance just kind of passed off as, oh, this is just going to be a casual game for the people that aren't really into like Zelda or Metroid and stuff like that. They can get in, play this, have fun for a few minutes, and then go on. But everyone seemed to enjoy those two games specifically, so I'm looking forward to playing them myself just to see what the experience is.
Snipper Clip's a good value at $20 too.
Yeah.
It's a great value.
Oh, it's seriously $20. Yeah, count me in. I'm gonna pre-order that tomorrow.
I see it going at that number being thrown around everywhere, and then I saw it on GameStop's site, and I was like, wow, it's really $20.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's crazy. That is definitely the smartest thing about this, is that Nintendo is kind of throwing out the business model that every other console, like every game has to be $60. If a game isn't $60, it almost looks strange. So it's interesting that Nintendo is just like $20, $40, $30. All that matters is that you buy it.
Yeah, what game was there? There probably wasn't even a Nintendo game. I don't even know. There was some game that was announced at like $60, and then later it was re-announced for like $40 or $50. I can't really think
that
what it is.
That was Bomberman.
Yeah,
Bomberman. Yeah. That was so cool.
Yeah. For me, the biggest surprise wasn't necessarily what was revealed or shown off, but it was what they didn't mention. Because with the Wii U, the biggest selling point of it to me, aside from replaying like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker in HD, is the ability to go back and play all of these games from your past on the virtual console. So the fact that they didn't really mention that during their event was kind of a huge downer for me, because they could have just slipped it in for like 10 seconds, not even made that big of a deal about it, and said something like all of the great classic titles that you're already enjoying on the eShop or the Virtual Console for the Wii U and the 3DS, it's all going to be available at launch during for the Nintendo Switch. That way, not only do you have these big games that they announced, but in your head you can already be like, okay, well, I can go and play A Link to the Past, Minish Cap, Super Mario, like the first 3 NES Mario games, and like all of these great classics on day one. They're going to be available. That way, if you only have like, you're spending $300 or whatever plus tax and shipping on the Switch itself, then you may have the money to go out and buy 1 or 2 games for the Switch at launch. And you don't have that much money to buy like a 3rd or a 4th game. But with the knowledge of all of these games being readily available on the eShop or the Virtual Console, there's tons of games there for like $5 to $10 that you could just buy and not have to worry about spending like a huge part of your paycheck on. So I thought that would have been a cool thing. That way, instead of having like 5 to 10 potential games, you have 30 to 40, even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
exactly.
And then not only, like with the Wii U, you can play it on the big TV or on the gamepad, but you can't really go anywhere with it. On the 3DS, you can take it on the go, but the screen's kind of small. And with the Switch, you can have it both ways. You have a big HD handheld screen that you can play all these games on, but you could also enjoy it on the TV. So it's the best of both worlds, and I thought it was something that would have got people more excited, but seeing as the Switch already sold out everywhere, they didn't really need it, so maybe it's good they saved it for a future conference to give the Switch a bigger boost in the future.
They just need that sustained hype to stay. Just games
Yes.
like Pokemon, are going to keep it going. They don't need everything now. They need stuff spaced out like
Alright.
a month, every month, something decent.
Alright, and this time starting with you, Dreamcast guy. You've been the last answering for the past few. What was one game and feature you were hoping would have been announced, but wasn't?
So this is going to sound weird and maybe even random to the listeners, but there were all these rumors of possibly a Dark Souls trilogy coming out on the Switch and that it's already in development. And I was really hoping that we would see it here. And the reason why is because I really think Nintendo needs to prove how powerful this console is to really draw in not just new audiences, but new developers. And I think if they just really showed like, this is ARMS, it's cool and fun and quirky, and this is Puyo Pop versus Tetris, an awesome puzzle game. Also, here's this super cool, dark, gritty, blood-filled action game. That would have been a really smart way to just literally pull fans in from every group. So when we didn't see it, I know that sounds weird to be depressed about something that wasn't really even super heavily rumored, but that was something, I was hoping for something very similar to that. Feature-wise, I guess the only thing I was really let down by, or something I was really hoping to see is, I was sort of hoping for more battery life. I am very much a person who loves to play on the go. I live next to the train station, and all day long I'll like ride the train while doing my errands or go to the bookstore, and I loved playing RPGs on the go. So the idea of only being able to like last 3 hours while playing Breath of the Wild is reasonable. That makes sense, but it's still, I want more. Maybe I'm being battery greedy, but that was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, you brought on the battery life scenario, and for me, going into it, I was hoping they announced that if your Joy-Cons are running low on battery, you can plug them into your Switch, the actual console, and while you're playing it, it'll recharge your battery. I was kind of hoping it would have the opposite effect, where if your Switch was going dead, then they could have these large batteries. Well, not really large, because the Joy-Cons themselves aren't large, but they would have these extra batteries inside the Joy-Cons. That way, if your actual Switch console is getting low on battery, you can snap those on and it'll charge the Switch itself, as opposed to the Switch charging the controllers.
That's super. I didn't even think of that. That's actually super smart.
Yeah, so that was something that I kind of missed out on that I was hoping they would talk about. Maybe they'll do it in like a future firmware update or something. They can allow the Joy-Cons to charge the actual console. And I think they mentioned that they were going to have the like third-party batteries or packs or something that you can clip on like a phone case, but for the Switch that'll have a second battery in it to help charge the Switch on the go. So maybe that is their answer for this. And then in 2-3 years, they could always release another version of the Switch. They've always released with their handheld consoles. There's always been some kind of, like, the Game Boy Advance had the SP. There was 3 or 4 different versions of the DS and the 3DS. So if they release like a 2.0 of sorts of the Switch in the future that had a larger battery life, I think that would be great. But moving on to you, Stealth, what are your thoughts on this? What was the biggest... No, crap, sorry. What was the one game or feature you were hoping that would have been announced, but wasn't?
I really thought that Smash Brothers Deluxe was going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just felt like it was like a shoe-in.
Yeah.
So that I was surprised that I didn't see that. I was surprised we didn't see Mario Maker on Switch.
Yeah, Mario Maker makes a lot of sense on there, right?
In terms of feature, I'm not really sure. The battery life is what I expected it to be. They didn't talk about the virtual console, which is kind of a big deal to me and kind of not a big deal at the same time. Only because I was kind of expecting them to like kick it off with like Mother 3 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
that was
I was
one of the
hoping-
big rumors going into it.
Yeah, and it could still very well happen during the direct whenever because there will be a direct for the online.
Yeah, I
But
expect a direct specifically for Zelda, and then I expect a direct to go over all of the extra features of the Switch before launch.
But yeah, they already said that there's going to be an online one going over that in the virtual console.
Alright, yeah, you mentioned Switch, you mentioned Smash Brothers for Switch. I thought it was odd that the 3 biggest rumored games to me was the Mario Kart, Splatoon, and Smash Brothers. And 2 out of the 3 got announced, so after they showed off or announced the first 2 during the initial reveal trailer a few months ago, I thought it was a shoo-in that they were going to announce Smash Brothers in some way. And then there was the interview with Reggie where he said they were working to make the online functionality or something as best as it could be for future games, and then one of the games he named off was Smash Brothers.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I know I'm sure it's real. They're just probably waiting till E3.
Yeah.
Well, my thought is that they're really trying super hard not to make this seem like the Wii port machine, because if you announce your game and it's nothing but like rehashes of your old games that people have already bought, that'll really turn off new buyers really fast. So I honestly think Splatoon 2 really just Splatoon Deluxe, and I'm not even being mean to it. It's a great looking game. It's going to be fun as hell, but it doesn't seem like a real full-blown sequel. Whereas Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, they're just calling it what it is, but they didn't want to then be like, also, here's Super Smash Brothers, exactly like it was, but now looking prettier. And now they just couldn't have done that. That would have looked really bad. And then same with that between Skyrim.
One thing about Splatoon 2, it looks kind of the same, and even though the shaders look better, it does look like a little bit better in terms of graphics. It does have a completely new story mode and basically new everything. So that I can see as that really is a sequel.
It is, but it still seems like glorified DLC to me, just because it still has so much in common. You don't see sequels very often that are just like the first game, but again and with a little bit more. Like from Witcher 1 to Witcher 2, it is this humongous advancement. From Dragon Age 1 to Dragon Age 2, it's this huge advancement. Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2, it's a totally different combat system.
Yeah, but like you have to put it in the context of other shooters. Like how much of an advancement is Call of Duty? Yeah. Or even like Borderlands 1, 2, and the other one.
Well, what the thing that makes me the most forgiving to it is that it's so impressive that they're doing the 2-year turnaround. Like, most people don't realize that even a small game usually takes about 3 years to make. So the fact that they spent like 3 years making Splatoon and then immediately set to work making a sequel, and now they're debuting it 2 years later, is impressive as hell.
Yeah, and
But-
plus, I think with Splatoon 2, they probably had a lot of ideas that they wanted to put in the original, but they thought bringing this brand new IP with all of these different modes in it and all of these different types of gameplay would have been too much for a first-time player trying to learn. So keeping all of that to add into a sequel after everybody understands what Splatoon 1 is, and then putting that in Splatoon 2 with all of these features that they may have originally wanted, I think that is a huge factor into how this was able to be turned around so fast.
And I do agree that they're probably waiting until Mario Kart comes out in April before they announce any more Wii U ports.
Yeah.
Yeah, alright, and finally, Spawnwave, your YouTube channel is all about the Nintendo Switch, so what was a game or a feature that they could have announced but didn't for you?
Well, you guys already talked about the game that I really wanted to see there was Mother 3. I actually wanted to see it as basically a physical release if possible at like a $20 price point, just to give us something, especially as fans who have been waiting as long as we have to have that game actually released in the United States. I feel like that would have done some fan service to a lot of the people who have really waited around for something like that to happen with Nintendo. But I guess the one feature that I missed out on, or I was hoping was there, it's kind of a small nitpicky thing, but I was really hoping there'd be an Ethernet port on the dock, and according to sources, there is not one. So this is again going to be another Nintendo system that does not have that. It probably won't affect everyone at all, really at all. But I just like to have my stuff hardwired if I can. I understand the tablet in tablet mode it can't be hardwired, but to give us that option at least would be nice. It has the bandwidth for USB-C to do it, so I'm not sure why that Nintendo just does not like Ethernet. I really don't.
Yeah, it was to me that can just be like I think most people are going to be playing the Switch half on the go, half plugged into the TV, and to have the Ethernet cable plugged into the Switch dock, which you're only going to be using half the time, maybe it's going to be inconvenient for a lot of people to have that extra cable running behind their entertainment center or something.
They at least give me the USB to Ethernet adapter, so I have one. I'll use it, but I just would have liked it to be native.
And plus, if you think about manufacturing costs, if they're just paying $1 or $2, which $1 or $2 isn't a lot to put something into a Switch, but when you think about 10 million different units, if you save that $2 with the Ethernet port, you're saving $20 million by not putting in the Ethernet port.
I understand that completely, but the dock is $90.
Yeah. Well, say it really what most people don't realize, most like casual Nintendo fans don't realize, is that the Switch is really nothing but an ergonomics machine. They just want this to be the most efficient, cheap piece of hardware, like cheap for them to produce, not like a piece of plastic, but you can tell that they are struggling to make every cent of overhead off this that they can. That way that in case they need to dump an extra $10 million in throwing out like 2 more Mario sequels in the subsequent years, they'll already have that from just this first burst of hardware sales. So I think they're just trying to cheap the hell out of it so they can make more games later, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I understand that converting from Type-C DisplayPort to HDMI and USB ports isn't cheap, but when I saw that dock at $90, that really took me back a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the price of everything. That's my biggest gripe, is the cost of the controllers, the cost of, like, that's all ridiculous to me. Like, the $90 replacement equipment, that just seems ridiculous. But hopefully those prices drop, or they allow third-party people to start producing them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually, I've thought about it more. I'm okay with the Joy-Cons at their prices, only because I was paying $40 for a Wii Remote back in the day. Mm-hmm. And that would have been a lot more expensive now back then. Most people think the $300 price point's expensive, but it's actually a pretty cheap price point if you compare it to the Wii back in 2006 with inflation. It's actually not a terrible price point.
Or even the 3DS release price.
Sure. But the Joy-Cons at $80, you get 2, typically they're $40 each. And I'm sure with inflation, it's even less. So I've thought about it more and more after my initial reaction. I said, look, I don't personally need 2 more Joy-Cons. I'll be fine with what they give me, but I can understand how it's not the worst price in the world.
My only real problem with the Joy-Cons in accordance to price is, I don't know if you guys have heard this rumor, but the Joy-Con range is extremely short. I'm hearing like 3 feet. Like if you go outside of like 5 or 6 feet, it will not even detect it. It is made to be a handheld, and when you start actually stepping away from it, like, it can really mess it up. People were like showing footage of them playing the Street Fighter game, and they like, when the attendant wasn't paying attention, they took like one step back and their character would stop punching.
Oh,
So
That's surprising.
That's the
I
weird
wonder
thing
if
to me.
that's due to like where there were so many switches, cell phones, and everything
It-
else going
or-
on. If it was
or
just
it could-
interference.
Or it could be low power. Since so many people were playing it all day long, usually when your thing starts dying, it's less receptive before it actually crashes. So it could have been that. But I'm freaked out about the idea of like handing somebody a Joy-Con and then it's just not working because it only works for like if you're shoulder to shoulder. That I'm hoping that it has really powerful wireless tech inside
It
of it.
should be Bluetooth, right? I mean, that's what you should use, Bluetooth.
I would hope so, but Bluetooth also eats batteries like candy bars, so I kind of imagine they won't go that route. Maybe though, I have no idea.
I want to thank you all for watching this video. If you liked it, give this video a like and share it with your friends. If you haven't already, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future gaming news, theories, rumors, and discussions. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on how it could be improved. Your feedback is the most important part of bringing the quality of content on this channel to be the best that it can be. I would like to take this time to give a huge thank you to this month's Patreon supporters: Jonathan, The Edge Network, Magic Tech Review, John Frank, and Harris Priest. This video was made possible by supporters on Patreon. If you would also like to support this channel, head over to patreon.com/GameOverJesse where you can support this channel as well. Rewards vary from having your topic featured on a future discussion, seeing videos early, joining as a guest on a video, shoutouts, and having a custom avatar similar to my own drawn a view to match any video game or anime art style that you would like. Mine is of myself as Link, but you could choose to have yours any way that you would like. Finally, I would like to thank my friends CS Guitar 89 and Gnomo Designs for providing the music and artwork for this video.